back to that go to work style that everybody likes. But we'll have to
Yeah,
see.
I haven't been watching them at all. I am finally considering getting in on
Oh
soccer
yeah.
because they're building a soccer stadium here in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
So I've mocked it and avoided it my entire life, but I feel like it's probably time to get on board.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was actually looking into just a couple of weeks ago the Detroit Football Club. They're eventually going to,
Yeah.
I think, build it in that area right behind Ford Field for that
Oh, nice.
club or whatever. So,
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be awesome here. They're building. It's pretty much in real close proximity to the new amphitheater that they're building too. So, I mean, it's getting
okay.
crazy in Grand Rapids. It's booming here. Getting centered.
Yeah, I just, yeah, I really like soccer. I tend to like the women's game better.
Yeah.
Much like kind of basketball and soccer both. I prefer the women's game. Just a more of a fundamental way they do it and such. So, but yeah, definitely get on board if they're bringing a club into Grand Rapids.
For sure. So, how's your week?
Good. I'm graduating.
Yeah.
Yeah, done.
Congratulations. Are you
So
done with classes?
no, not officially. So, and me, I'm such a don't count your chicks type of thing. Um, so yesterday I finished the
That's true
last.
about this time, about this amount of time before your senior year of high school graduation, you probably thought you were going to be walking across the stage.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, this will be the first time I've walked across the stage. I actually was. I've kind of grown to have kind of a good rapport with one of my professors that I've had a couple times, and the last class I'll have with him finished up yesterday, and we were talking about just about that, and like kind of embracing the I'm not one that usually is toots my own horn, if you will. So like I'm feeling good about it and that kind of thing, but I told him specifically that this will be my first walk, so it's so it should be good. I have I finished up the cyber ops class yesterday, and then I have just basically one more like unit exam for biology and a relatively small project, and that's have that done by Sunday. So that's really over, and
Nice.
basically I walk a week from this Saturday uh, at 1 p.m. So
Nice. Good.
yeah, yeah.
All right, well, let's get into the news of the week because we got some stuff to cover.
All
So
right.
let's
I,
do
I can only
this.
I can only guess what it is. It's just been a freaking avalanche. But
Well, I was curious about what has you fired up this week, but one of the things that I've been, I mean, to no one's surprise at all, Elon Musk
is that
is
the
kind
douche?
of
Oh, Doge. Okay.
quietly pulling away from Doge now. I mean, after the big earnings call, if you can call it that, from Tesla, showing that that company's just going into the shitter big time,
Oh my word.
which I think is like regardless of what had happened on that earnings call, I'm pretty sure Elon was on his way out the door anyway. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes. If there's any salvaging, I mean, I don't think the damage has been done to his reputation, to the brand, to the to those things, and I think that there's a lot of he was allowed for a long time to just you know keep promising and giving a lot of rope, and definitely over the length of time he's delivered on different things, but besides just all the political ramifications, the recalls, the realistic nature with which this robo taxi thing's going to happen, like I just don't think we're finally, thank God, coming out of a period where these tech guys can't just basically keep promising stuff and be, just giant influx of cash to get their dirty, greedy little hands and all sorts of other things, while they're stringing people along. And then again, I'm not saying that they've never delivered good product, but it's, when something has to come and come out or be done or whatever, like he basically, uses up and spits out some really amazing human capital and then reaps all the, outward, reputational benefit from that. Like, it's not, he's not designing these things. Like, he's like, again, the greatest disservice, I blame John Favreau for putting his stupid ass in Iron Man 2. Like, honestly, they tried.
That was it. That was the tipping point right there. That's when it all started going downhill with Musk, huh?
In my estimation, truly. I mean, that's when he bought his own bullshit at levels that.
Well, that's when, in his mind, pop culture put him like at Tony Stark mind level, right?
Correct. Well, yeah. I mean, well, and he's so full of shit. Like, he's, he could have almost said something like, like it was based on him, even though it came out in, 63 or whatever it was. So like, yeah, just the hubris and the arrogance. And then, like you said, I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I listened to some of that call, and just the idea that, at one time people were so in love and enamored with this guy that, like, yeah, if he said, okay, even just threw him a little bone, like, oh, I'm going to, daddy's going to spend more time with you now.
Yeah.
They just lap that up. And I think that people are thank God, are finally getting a little wise to that, he is inextricably linked to that company, but that doesn't always have to be true if they want to really move forward for, their long-term success definitely hinges on some short-term, repairing of this relationship, and then him being, phased out in any kind of real, I don't want to say decision making, because again, I mean, where I will give him credit is he's just a ruthless business person. So I mean, he has it's not like he was given this money per se, but it's, he has certainly been cutthroat and ruthless in a way that leaves very little room to be sympathetic towards him now. And especially when he cries bullshit like Trump and the, do you know what I'm giving up for this type of crap? So
I think people's sentiment towards him probably on the come up was a lot different too, because there was this idea that he was innovating and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Tesla hasn't really done anything significant. They did the Cybertruck, which I think hasn't really been a success financially or otherwise. Mm-hmm. And then the whole Doge thing, I'm wondering how soon it's going to be before people are really being intellectually honest and saying that nothing good came from that. It probably cost more than it actually saved. I mean, he was up there on stage, saying, oh, we're going to find $2 trillion in fraud and waste and all of that. They haven't even gotten even remotely close to it, and even the numbers that they are saying, whatever it is, 200 million or 200 billion or whatever, probably not accurate, probably fluffed up. So
yeah, well, but see, the thing is that everybody's so dug in, like we've already discussed in the past, where I think everything you just said is absolutely accurate, but there's still a giant swath that is fully convinced that he absolutely, it has been this great benefit. I mean, like, it won't take long, 10 years, and we will see the giant amount of influence that will have been lost to us in Africa that will be gained by China in a financial and political sense, and Russia in a military sense. And all of this, Like, how in any way, shape, or form does that behoove the American people? I mean, even if there was anywhere near the savings of which they spoke, they're like the destroying of all of these programs and these, you know, I won't say livelihoods. I know that they want to beat you over the head with that, but like, I mean, I do overall, I'm glad that there's more of a push out of public sector into private sector employment, but there is institutional loss that can never be repaired. I mean, like the scientists at NOAA, the different things where, you know, the systems that are in place where, because they've worked so well for so long, no one's even aware of them, thank God, because they move us forward. But now as they start to fail and are vacated and destroyed, the daily repercussions to people's lives are going to spin out of control within months. I mean, knowing about when a natural disaster is coming your way is imperative to reacting to it. And you're going to take all the scientists away that can even figure that out, let alone the budget to put that out there to the people. Like, again, governance is more than just bottom lines. And the destruction to societal structure is irreparable. I mean, these people don't care. I mean, think about, like, how in any way, shape, or form has Musk or like a Trump or any of these people like ever fit into society? Like, they were the scion of somebody that had influence, and then they basically were, the wheels were greased for their whole lives, and then they were funded, I mean, for a big stretch by their families, and then basically by the government. You know, like, it's obscene. It's to think that there's like any kind of, you know, connection to what real people need in their everyday lives, you know?
Right.
I mean, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to kind of like where we're going to end up after the smoke clears with all the tariff bullshit, because, I mean, I think it's looking like probably everything's going to just settle back to where we started eventually, because Trump has proven himself to be such a backpedaler, and you know what he's telling everybody about all the phone calls he's getting and all of that. Probably nonsense, I would assume.
Did you see the excerpt from the Time interview that came out today?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Where he's basically, and I won't be able to repeat it verbatim, but it's like he's alluding to all these deals that are getting done. He's like, yeah, there's like 200 of them. And then he basically, and again, I can't quote it, but it basically says, and I've done every single one of them. That's absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
So, like, it just shows that.
Well, just his golf schedule alone precludes him from taking that many phone calls.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw his, you know, slouched hunk, you know, I don't even know what word, like, just slinking off the, you know, Marine One into the White House like this morning, you know, walking across the lawn. I mean, that dude doesn't do anything fast, you know, except pull a fast one on the American people. Yeah, it's
well, even China is now, you know, basically saying, look, anything you're hearing about
they've called it
phone calls or deal making is not happening, which is totally true, because like he's shown his cards already. So like all of the blustering and the posturing and all that is really all he has is like the swagger and, you know, whatever it is that comes together to make whatever his charisma is. He doesn't even have that now, because now now he's shown, you know,
right. Well, it's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of the volatility that actually at one time worked, but now, you know, he has shown to be, you know, have no real stones and no real, like, again, just yesterday, somebody that I actually like and respect And I told you last week that I'm going to slap the next person that says he's playing fucking 4D chess. That motherfucker is a moron. I mean, he can't play tic-tac-toe. Like it's the cartoon that came out about a week ago from China with kind of like it was almost kind of how you worded it last week, but slap me in the face and then have me apologize to you, like,
right,
or insist that I do. And in this cartoon, I think by the fourth panel, they refuse, but then he still, or maybe they do apologize, and he still shoves a club into their face or whatever. Like they are actually releasing like unedited footage of like him and Vance and Rubio and these people being morons and idiots because they don't like that stuff never gets released on their socials because usually people in leadership in America are saying valid, moralistic and, whatever, something that's going to be positive and move the, democratic ideals, move forward those and just the global world order. They're putting real shots on there because these guys are just, I'm the self-serving nature with which they operate, and then the just egotistical hubris with which they deliver their fucking lies, and how like you're supposed to be grateful for them, how they're saving this fucking country, and you have done more. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, he has this amazing knack for touching on the real issue and then doing absolutely nothing about it, if not actually making it worse. So he's saying in all of his, dipshittery, he's saying like he's identifying problems, but he being involved in their solution only makes the problem worse, if not adding to, like, creating an additional problem.
Right. It's like if you're a shitty husband and you're talking to your wife and you'll be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm a drunk. I haven't had a job in years. And every so often I give you a little backhand. But I'm working on it. And I'm going to be better than ever. And the backhands, I mean, they're going to be less. Probably not zero, but they're going to be less.
Oh, my word. Yeah, I
think there's a lot of hubris too that comes from, like, I gotta imagine Trump himself and probably everybody in his inner circle, they know that their people, their base, are gonna buy into everything that they do, or at least up till now I feel like they felt that way. And I think this is the point, like right now, where they may start to lose people, because it's like they say, it's the economy. Right. It always comes down to that. And when people start being massively affected by that, when people like stop believing in the 4D chess, I think that's. But I guess my question for you, Shavy D, is what do you think their long game is? Is it, obviously the third term stuff is like pie in the sky stuff on their side, I would think. But what do you think their real long game is? Like JD Vance coming in behind him? Because I don't know that like the behavior and policies of a Donald Trump would be accepted by anybody else. There's something
it's the destruction
unique about him that's allowing him to push all this stuff over on people.
It's the destruction of government as we've known it. There is, like, when you have that kind of wealth, you can literally, I mean, it happened once in our country. I mean, that's what at one time, the most wealthy people in the world basically completely, or in the United States, completely dictated the machinations usually of their city, but specifically they had private police forces and things of that nature. Like, that's what this is all about. Like all the government programs that have been the shell game that was going on with the Doge thing was basically to appear to have cut so much that it was like a no-brainer for all the people that it was going to actually screw for the tax cuts to increase. They'll look the other way because they'll think that, oh, I'm going to get this check or this, whatever. That was what what they were trying to sell. But ultimately, it's the idea that that's why, like, they just want everything gone. They don't, because they don't pay, they already don't pay their fair share of taxes. So they don't want any taxes. They let the fucking, the middle class and lower basically scrap it out for what's little bit is left over, and then kowtow to them for the larger resources and things like that. I mean, that's, again, they got a whole working class population of people this last time to vote for his ass. And the only manufacturing they're going to bring back is fucking for like robots and absolutely lowest rung, minimum wage type of bullshit labor. So fuck you. I mean, don't get me wrong. There will be a small percentage that are the engineers that are going to possibly design the chips, but so much of that is like architectured somewhere else. And there may be a few engineers or, laboratory personnel that will oversee it here. But even then it will be kind of a displaced, like it's always ridiculous how they like will spout off about how this big investment from some whatever company is going to create 300 jobs. Yeah, but it's going to destroy a whole industry over here. And like, so you can make stats, work in your favor in any way. I mean, the last time the guy that put in charge of the USPS, that was the former UPS guy that just getting ready to leave or whatever. Well, he claimed to be like doing all these things to restructure, but he did nothing to address the bullshit George W. Bush era thing where you have to, when somebody comes on board, when you have a new hire, you have to completely fund their pension at that time. It's an unrealistic and absolutely insurmountable obstacle to some of what could have been done, again, 15 years ago, whatever, with the USPS. And then no one finds out about it for a decade. And then they, it's too little too late. But he gets put in last administration of his. And there's been some efficiencies, but really those efficiencies has really been to sell off large swaths of, the infrastructure, invest in some new infrastructure, but stuff that then when their plan succeeds and it gets just, it gets disbanded, the USPS, then all these can be sold back into fleets of, UPS, and like they're doing it with Social Security. Like it's a joke that it is happening in plain sight and no one's doing anything to stop it because they're both doing it. Like it's a turd is a turd. I don't care if it's brown or green. It's a turd.
Yeah.
That's what we have. There's not a politician out there looking out for anybody but themselves. Full fucking stop.
Yeah.
But it's to destroy the government, to come back full circle. That's it.
And everybody's got their, everybody already bought their jersey. So like nobody seems to want to like look with scrutiny at their own guy and say, right, what are you doing wrong?
Well, it's now don't get me wrong. I mean, how I'm just so like anti-performative. It just makes me cringe. But like, and there was certainly a component to it, but like, the guy that went down to El Salvador, like I where I found it the most poignant, and and I don't get me wrong, like I have a hard time almost even getting news nowadays because I'm so just put off by, there's no journalists left, and even the ones that are just the talking heads, I just don't really respect. As much as I don't like the slant of Fox, I find the woman from Fox Sunday. At one time early in her career, I think she was actually more genuinely impartial. I mean, now she's Fox, and she is. You can definitely
Yeah.
sense that, hear it, all that, and everything she speaks on. Having said that, she had that particular congressperson on this past Sunday, and got to grilling him and was trying to maybe trip him up a little bit in the whole like whatever thing. And I think he said it best near the end, where it was basically, I'm not going to vouch for this man's character. He might absolutely be anything and everything they're saying he is. And as soon as he gets back, his ass should be on the next plane out to somewhere else. But due process is due process. And that's what needs to be beaten over the head of these disingenuous fucks like, what is her name? That's the press secretary. Shut your fucking mouth about he's this or he's been deemed this, or I don't care. I don't care if he should be put, I don't care if he should be put to death because of some heinous fucking act or crime. You do it the right fucking way.
Right, because that's what sets us apart from
yes.
nations that don't fucking do that, that don't
Yes.
have due process. That is the thing, because I agree, he may be what they say, I agree with I don't know what congressman you were talking about that said that, but that's how I feel too.
Go there and talk to him.
It may be true, but let's fucking figure it out, and the way you would do it, for an American.
Yes, absolutely. And it's, it's kind of like, I mean, this is not a great analogy, but I kind of used this the other day discussing this. Our father was not afraid of physical discipline. There was definitely some, beltings and such, but like, there's a weird sort of differentiation I was trying to make the other day where I still have respect for that, in the sense that although, maybe it's an antiquated way of handling discipline, it was always, you were told, if you do this again, this is going to happen to you. And when we did, that thing happened to us. And it was a very unemotional, detached, you've done it again, you were told not to, get over here, drop them over the knee, boom, you're on your way.
Right. There's no better example of due process than if you want to cry, I'll give you something to cry about.
Absolutely.
That's due process. That's America, baby.
In a very real sense, that's absolutely true. And what I see constantly nowadays are these parents out somewhere in public, and they've let their little Johnny get all out of fucking control, or all there, maybe he's actually right to be out of control because you fucking ignored him or whatever for this whole period of time I've been watching you guys. And then you all of a sudden get embarrassed, or you all of a sudden have just had enough. You grab him up by the fucking arm, raise him up, and are fucking swatting. You're missing his ass half the time. That's violence. That's a beating of your child.
That's taking out your shame on the kid.
Discipline.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So all I'm trying to say is, again, it's not a great analogy, but it's the idea that there are some hard and sometimes brutal fucking truths to life. And it's certainly in specifically the kind of disciplines we as human beings have agreed upon implementing, whether it's in parental discipline or government discipline. But at the end of the day, it has to be a fucking process. It can't be by whim. So that's that full fucking stop again.
Yeah. And that's going to be like, if they don't speak out about that, if we don't have I'm worried that this is going to be something that is in the news cycle and then people stop talking about. But that's where it gets scary. That's where it gets to where, if they see they can get away with this a little bit, and they think, oh, let's distract them. Let's do our jazz hands and confuse and distract and everything. If that happens, then, the floodgates are open then.
Absolutely.
That's when, they start rounding them up, as they say.
Well, again, they've it's right out of the playbooks. That's the thing. I mean, they're attacking the free speech under the guise of anti-Semitism. Like it's always these. The reason we're doing this awful fucking undemocratic and anti-freedom thing is because of this almost borderline good reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, we've got to fight anti-Semitism, so we're going to bust down a bunch of fucking doors over ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I can't think. I don't want to. I can't think of.
I mean, it's how they do it. It's
they give you a valid argument.
It's like false flag attacks, basically. To get us into wars. It's very similar to that kind of thing. You trump up enough reason or justification, then people, they allow a little bit, and then give them an inch, they take a mile.
And what you do, and they've laid the groundwork of this by the last 10 years or so of your opposition is no longer wrong, they're your enemy, they're subhuman. Again, 10 years ago, it was about 10 years ago. It was the first time I saw those dipshits at one of Trump's rallies with I'd rather be a Russian than a Democrat. Like, you fucking morons. And guess what? It's come to pass, baby. Your inclinations, and I would venture to guess even your loyalties, lie there now. And boy, I never thought I'd see that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's just so interesting. And let's call it what it is. Both sides are guilty of the same bullshit, because on the left, it's the people who were sucking Elon's dick for a decade.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, when he starts working towards, for the other team, now they're keying Teslas. So,
well, even like the Russia thing, like go back to Obama, and don't get me wrong, I lost a lot of respect for Romney when he chose Tim Ryan as his running mate, because I think that guy just is one of the most snake in the grass motherfuckers. Got everything he wanted financially, and then jumped ship from like that guy is as oily snake oil salesman as I've ever fucking seen. But remember back when Romney ran against Obama, and he was talking about fucking Russia.
Romney was warning us about Russia, and Obama was like,
and Obama
was
the 80s call. Dismissive fucking cunt back then, which he always is. He thinks he's
so called. They want their foreign policy back.
Yeah, exactly. What an arrogant fucking twat that didn't have a fucking any experience in the only thing he did, again, we talked about this, I think, last week. He fucked up Egypt, fucking destroyed that whole thing, left the equipment to create lights. Like, Crimea happened on his fucking watch. Like, I can't think of a single foreign policy point in his whole administration that was positive. I mean, Hillary and Benghazi, the bribes with Biden. I mean, it is as he stayed in America, having everybody adore him like the second coming, he let the world fucking burn. As long as the globalists were making a shit ton of fucking money during that time. Well, guess what? That created whole fucking pockets of disgruntled, pissed off motherfuckers in every country across the fucking world. And now we got this. And then we got a guy that don't fucking care. All he cares about is being viewed as a great, a leader of a great power. Boy, that's a fucking recipe for a fucking war and fucking chaos.
He's succeeding in like uniting countries against us, Absolutely. Basically, like just reforming trade relationships and stuff that's gonna be shitty for us, and Trump's gonna be, retired or dead by then. He's not gonna be around to see the aftermath of his buffoonery.
Right, but like your Jared Kushner's will have his $2 billion slush from the era, from the Saudi Arabia and all the gross fucking, again, it's the shit. I'm so upset that fucking man is going to sit at Francis's funeral. I mean, thank God that man was above that kind of contempt and hate, that Francis was.
Yeah.
Like he would let, like, it would be in his heart and soul to let Trump be there. But I can't think of a human being on this planet that deserves to be there less than that piece of shit.
Yeah. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about. Let's talk. Wait, which buffoon am I putting up on the screen here?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about what's this twat done this week.
So the big antitrust trial going on. I just wanted to get your take on all of that because I don't know, I have kind of mixed feelings about it. Obviously, they have to do something about Meta. Meta's getting, pretty powerful, but
I don't
like they allowed all these purchases. Like they allowed Meta to purchase Instagram.
Well, I'm glad.
Now they're like,
It's interesting that you brought this up because it's funny because this was something I was talking to my instructor about the other day as well. Remember our conversation about maybe 5 years ago where it got pretty heated because you were kind of like, the whole thing was all of the dirty shit that he'd been doing for 15 years. It was really coming out, or like not dirty shit. That's a little too strong. He was allowing his systems to be used for in nefarious purposes by governments, other, malicious actors, if you will. And that stupid idiot fucking Sherry or Sandler, what's her fucking name? That was
Sheryl Sanders?
Yeah. I mean, she absolutely brought the business model over. So now to play this like I'm a woman of industry and I'm a she should be going down with him. But like, the last time he was in front of Congress, months ago, where he had to get up and did the fake bullshit turnaround apology. Like, this dude is just, again, the people that have the most power right now are the people that deserve it least. I just don't like, it's just a topsy-turvy ass backwards world. But to specifically on the antitrust and stuff, per our conversation, like, 5 years ago or so, it was where I kind of was at the end. I was almost like exacerbated because my thing is I don't know that there's much that can be done now. It's the idea that this thing, like, you let this behemoth get out of control without ever stopping it out, without ever putting a governor on it, with specifically putting actual law in place that absolve them from any real responsibility. So, like, it disgusts me that any kind of political hay gets made from this because they're the ones that it's their fault that it has gotten to this point, and now it has to be addressed this way. But having said that, like, look at this guy. Like, how can you possibly be sympathetic to what it may do to him? Like, he certainly should have some check and balance.
No, I would never have. I don't think I have the capacity to have any sympathy for Zucks at all. But no, my thing is I think that they should be going after Facebook and any of the other social media companies for the right reasons. I think they should go after them for like the engineering of like the addictive nature, and I think they should be going after, putting guardrails on it for young kids and things like that. Mm-hmm. And take them down in this way because I don't know. I just don't see I don't see it falling under the antitrust thing because, I mean, I guess kind of on the advertising maybe side of things, but it's not like there aren't other social media out there. They don't have a monopoly. I just don't see the argument for a monopoly. I know they blast them all for like buying up their competitors and all of that, but you're going to be busy if you start chasing down every company that buys their competitors.
Well, and that became a more prevalent business model once like tech took more prominence. So, I think that it's I don't really like it, the monopoly thing. Like, I don't, that's where I think it gets into a gray area where it kind of gives them almost the ability to argue against it. Whereas, not only do I agree absolutely with the, who's getting access to it, what kind of content, the actual psychological manipulation of it, but where I would like, do you remember how there was the big outrage on the right years ago about how the one Supreme Court justice didn't get appointed, or he got appointed or whatever, he got put up, but he wasn't confirmed.
They wouldn't even vote. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they took on the verbiage of he got borked. Well, his whole thing is why we have Facebook. It was like, I think where the, and again, I'm not a lawyer and I don't understand like the actual argument that you would make to the court, but I think there's probably some argument to be made about how, although you're offering a free service, not only because of the like you touched on, the, whether it's the different technological implementations that were wrong because of letting kids on, or content creation, or like you said, maybe the monopolistic advertising practices. But where I'd like to see it, like, the hood lifted and like look in there, is when you offer a free service, there's I don't know, an implication that somehow you are offering something back to the consumer. When in all of these cases, don't get me wrong, you would be told you're being entertained, or the messaging provides like an email out. Like, there's things that they're going to hang their hat on as services they're providing for you, and you're getting quote unquote those for free. But your data is so valuable, and that Congress is so afraid to actually deal with and work out, that's why we're having these arguments that are like kind of need to be had, because there's a level or a shade of monopolistic practices to it. But it's not, the world doesn't operate the way it once did, not only because of technology and because of the technology industry, but also because of the globalization and these other things. So like, we need not even necessarily restrictive, but we need some sort of like when you would have an inspection and stuff. I'm trying to think of the general word for that, but like oversight, like the world, this current administration in particular is daily trying to strike any kind of oversight, and we need that even more. Like, again, I was always disgusted by the phrasing of move fast and break things, because you were basically just trying to change an industry so you could take it. It wasn't like you were true. Anyway, words mean things, but like I don't know. I'm sorry. I want to hear what you have to say about this.
No, go ahead. I mean, yeah, move fast and break things. I mean, I get that. I mean, I'd be interested to hear more of your thoughts on that. But
well, I think they try to say that it's like, don't be afraid of innovation, but I don't think that's.
Well, I think it's more of don't be afraid to just make mistakes in the pursuit of innovation. Don't be afraid to just like do things differently and maybe fuck things up a little bit sometimes in the pursuit of it. But yeah, that doesn't work as well in government.
And if it was just a fucking things up sometimes versus destroying things, I might even let that hold a little more weight. But obviously in my heart, I'm very, you do you, I do me. That's like my mantra. But by my nature, am a conservative person. So like the idea that, again, I think these words like progressive and conservative, have lost what the meaning, at least I was raised for them to represent. And the idea that like, you want to progress, you want to move culture or technology or something forward. I get that, and I'm cool with that. It's not like this whole different way of thinking like the progressives would try to tell you nowadays. But that's also true of conservatism. It now has got painted with this broad brush of, oh, I'm just anti every fucking thing, it's me and only mine and screw everybody else. But at one time, and this is the part that I embrace, was very much like, yes, I, along with everybody else, want to progress forward, but I also want to conserve what has worked already. So let's do it. Like I said last week, I love that explanation of like how you should treat the government. It's like you're performing surgery on your father slowly and with great care. Well, that's true. Like, I'm fine. Like, as much as I was anti social media, there's certainly been certain technological advancements that have arisen from that I am very impressed with and actually enjoy. But the societal and technological carnage that has been wrought by these giant companies is not worth the money that's been made in the stock market.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
damage has been done. I don't know that it can be
I think the
repaired.
biggest harm is the danger to kids. I think that's the biggest thing that concerns me, because I don't know, when they start, like, and this is the reason it's been on my mind, is with the court case and everything. I think adults should be able to go do adult things at their, like, if you want to be on Facebook, be on Facebook. If you want to be on X, be on X. I think that in terms of the everybody rips on Zuckerberg all the time for acquiring his competitors and all of that. That's like the one thing about him that doesn't annoy me, because
Mhm.
number one, that's business, that's capitalism. Number two, I bet you almost every single one of those companies that he's acquired, the person who started that company, their goal was to be acquired.
Right,
So
absolutely.
like
Well, that's
everybody
why I said it's a
wins.
technique now, or it's an aspiration now in that tech sector.
100%. And furthermore, like, you don't have to get acquired. They offered Snapchat a hell of a lot more than they offered Instagram, and Snapchat said no. They
Mhm.
just did their own thing, and they're surviving now, and
Right.
they're doing
Well, that,
just fine.
and that's exactly why along the way they should have had regulation, and they should, like, again, you can't let someone or something run amok and then expect to fence it in afterwards. You just, I mean, part of the problem with douchey Doge is the fact that he was left unchecked for so long. It's not just his company. Like, the shell game, when you can borrow against your stock, but then you can't like be held like that's not, you're not taxed on that or any, like, the idea
Yeah,
that
that's
the unchecked,
the rich get richer.
absolutely, but the way it has not only the exponential growth of it, but the way it has not even, like, they're not even trying to check on it. They're not even keeping up appearances. And now with all these like pardons and all this other shit, like, who really fears the, like, th- there has to be some healthy fear in this world to keep people, within the rails. Now, don't get me wrong, I get what you're saying about, like, you know, adults being able to do whatever they want, or to a degree, like, whatever. But, like, that's why, and again, and this kind of would probably tie into like maybe addressing some of the underage stuff. There is a, and this is kind of a conservative principle, but like, there's got to be a level of skin in the game for it really to matter to you, and so therefore that you're going to take a beat and really understand the repercussions of it. And so
Yeah.
therefore the idea of this, everything was free, I think was all sold in an extremely false way for not only what the benefit those companies reaped, but the damage that it did, not only on a personal but on a societal level.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yes, we're all big boys and girls, and we can, after a certain age, we can make decisions for ourselves. But that sometimes rings true when the environment that in which we live, people are so allowed to, just so misrepresent things unchecked, and there's no repercussion. I mean, again, like you don't even get cases of false advertisement or like think like there was once a level of pushback to this just bullshitting that these giant powerful entities were doing to the masses or the common man or woman. And that's why we need these this type of litigation. But I don't see it. I have very little faith that anything positive will really come out of this, except for more like entrenchment of, I don't like this guy, and so he should be punished. Because that's not right. It's the idea that all along this way, there should have been government intervention and at least some sort of guardrails put up, and there wasn't. And now you can't, to make political hay, get up there during these hearings and be like, oh, you're just a bad son of a bitch. Well, no. Yeah. So are you, Senator, because you didn't do shit.
Well, right, because we got too far down the road before addressing it. And that's the same thing I feel about the social media stuff with kids. Like, I'm in favor of school districts banning phones at school.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think that absolutely should be, because you can't, like, a lot of the argument, and maybe the argument I would have made 10 years ago was, well, don't, like, depend on the school to parent your kids. If you don't want your kid to have a phone, don't get them a phone. That's a little more nuanced now, because now, yes, social media and phones have been shown to lead to depression, but if you're the only kid in school that doesn't have one, that's going to lead to even more depression. That's just a fact.
An ostracization.
Yeah, but you can't have your kid, and again, it sounds on its face like shitty parenting, but it's just the reality now. Like, when we were growing up, if we were the only kids in school that didn't have a television, that would have had a major social impact on us and our ability to relate to other kids.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get some of the points you made in there were accurate, but like Wanda used to push back against me a lot for, like, if all the kids were fucking off doing stuff and Greg was participating, I wouldn't allow that. Like, just because kids will not just be kids in certain things. Like, right. I'm not saying like playing out.
But that's not what I'm talking about, though. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm coming around. I'll come around full circle to it. But like now you threw my thought. What did you just say right before I started talking? Before that?
Well, just that it's going to be more of a social harm to them to not have access to what every kid has.
Right. And so I guess where I'm most sympathetic, just to not get lost in the minutia of it, like my big thing when Greg was little was that he, because he was a latchkey kid, there needed to be some access to that phone. But it was, put it in your locker, and if you're caught with it, the hammer will fall. So like, I do think to a level, even if it's awkward for them, you can still, like, if you have the right dynamic with your child, you can still reinforce any of those, behaviors or whatever. But having said that, I absolutely agree with you that it would be way better, especially with the absolutely verifiable damage that's being done to these kids with all of the screen time, to just say, all right, you know what, this not only, I mean, it would only probably take a bank of 50 feet by 10 feet high or something like that. But you get a locker, and you also get a phone locker. And by 8:30,
they don't even need that. They have the bags. It's already been invented. They have the bags, like if you go to a comedy club or whatever.
So there you go.
Just locked.
So and
that eliminates the whole emergency thing and all of that.
Yeah, because
I just think that it has to be done on that level, because it's really, unfortunately, not fair to put that on parents, and it feels weird even to say that, because it feels so much like you're punting your parenting responsibility. But I don't know. if I told Lucy she couldn't have a phone anymore, that's going to damage her social life in 2025.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing. I mean, I guess maybe I fixated on the school thing. Like, I don't know that because a phone is not a phone anymore. A phone is your personalized uh, portal into the virtual world. So
Right.
therefore, like the idea of a child after a certain age not having a phone, yeah, I don't know that is any longer realistic. But I don't think even all the way up to a senior in high school, you can't say it ain't going to school with you, or it's going
Yeah.
in, like in your car, whatever. Like I'll put a one of those low jacks for your phone, an air like whatever. I'll know where that thing is all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like if
Yeah.
like now I'm not saying that
Well, you can.
I
I
don't
know
necessarily
where
have that
my
style of
daughter's
parenting
phone is all
where
the time. You
what's
know.
that?
I mean, I know where Lucy's phone is all the time. I mean, that's all in place and everything. I don't know. I think it should be done at the school level.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it's
you know
just,
me. I mean,
they
fucking for
can't be
20
learning
years.
as much. There's no
Not
way
20
they're
years.
learning as much.
2017. So like for over 15 years, I've been saying that like I've been trying to not have any of this stuff be out there. Like I would go back to like have it be a phone only and go home and do a tablet or a lap, whatever. Like there's a reason that I really would have liked some delineation. But again, society voted and whatever, but that doesn't mean I have to accept to a certain level how things have transpired and adjust accordingly, but that doesn't have to mean that I am going to completely change how I want to do things. And so yeah, I mean it's weird. I mean you're absolutely right to touch on it because it's such a sense like it is it's kind of almost gross for me to say this out loud, but you're absolutely right. It almost is unfair to parents if they're not all doing it,
Right.
but there's been many things over the, for centuries where, Billy, Bobby, Johnny, and Sue are all doing this and their parents might but I'm holding you to this and you don't get to do this because you're going to be better off in the long run. And that shit came to fruition. You don't get to go just run fast and loose. You're going to practice piano every day. You're going to
Yeah.
whatever. Now, those are more things of implementation of things you have to do versus just fucking off. But it can also work the other way where Billy, Bobby, Johnny, and Sue all have a phone and it's rotting their fucking brain and you're not going to have one.
And
Or
I
if you
bet,
have to have one, it will remain at home and from 3 to 5 p.m. you can go ape shit on that thing, but other than that, we won't be allowing that. And
yeah.
on a case by
Well, I think
case,
the reason it's a little unfair to parents for them to allow it at school and it puts parents in a bad position is because if you ask somebody who didn't have kids in school, like maybe somebody a little older than us, they might be surprised to find out that kids are just allowed to have their iPhone at school all day unchecked. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like looking back at the way things were when we were in school. It is kind of surprising that more schools didn't clamp down on that sooner and make that something that parents didn't have to say, no, you can't take your phone to
well,
school.
like many things, it's the hyperbole of like it's happening all over the place. I don't think it was as I think that it's the biggest thing now is parents are feeling guilty because they've let their fucking kids rot their fucking brains and have you know unhealthy social dynamics because of these fucking things and now they're wanting to it's like almost revisionist history where like yeah I'm there was plenty of like even when you started like again Greg he was whatever latchkey kid he depending on what day different parent all that kind of stuff so like he had his phone and if he didn't have it out he wasn't in trouble. If he got it out he got in trouble and then it would get taken away whatever. Like, so like there's a whole discipline that is involved in all that where it's just the unchecked nature. Like now, don't get me wrong. I know it had to be absolutely exhausting for the teachers. And that's probably where they finally gave up making people put them away in their pockets or whatever. But it's just because something is hard or exhausting doesn't mean you give up on it. Like, so, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of factors that let it get this out of control. Kids, parents, teachers, system, society, right. All that.
Well, yeah, at some level, it probably started out with
accountability is what I'm like. I like your idea because it just allows for less time for a child's face to be in that thing. Just if it's in a bag for 6.5 hours a day, I can be assured that they're not, the brain isn't rotting during that period of time. But the thing I most miss in this world is personal accountability, and some of that. Put your fucking phone down.
I agree. That's why this is a weird. This is an uncomfortable conversation for me to have because it feels so like against personal accountability and all that. It's just one of those situations that's just out of hand now. Mm-hmm. And I have empathy to the problem too, because it's not like it's not a problem that doesn't affect adults as well. I mean, when it really struck me as a big problem, we were on our way to school and Lucy had a little moment of panic because she thought she forgot her AirPods. Yeah. And she's like, oh man, I can't get through the day without my AirPods. And my first thought was, I can't imagine even having them in school all day, or having any of this. And my second thought was, yeah, I couldn't get through the day without my AirPods either. If I left for the day and didn't have my earbuds, I would go back. I would 100% go back.
As you know, me, that's absolutely a foreign concept.
Oh, well, you're a Luddite.
Yeah, but there's a shit ton in the world that are too.
Yeah.
Like it don't get me wrong.
But only because there's a massive shit ton of actual people in the world that leaves there room to be a shit ton of people who don't. You know what I mean? You're a huge minority.
People that have turned back away from it, different things like that. No, don't get me wrong. Like it is only just blowing up all over the world. I mean, people in the middle of the desert, in the deepest jungle, in the fucking Antarctic, they all have fucking cell phones. So I mean, it will never change. It will never go back unless it's a different technology replaces it. It will never just be, left behind. I get all that. But again, it's, things need to be done. If we take no other lesson from like the Facebook trial, this type thing we're discussing, like it's the idea that systems work best when there's a little some feedback in there. There needs to be a feedback loop built into these systems where if shit starts getting sideways, we can tweak it before we just let it fucking run amok because it's making a few, select people a shit ton of money. Because that's what it's always about.
Yeah. So. Well, and in a week where, and this is the last point I'll make on this, I think it's about focusing on the right things because right now, instead of arguing over this in court, they're arguing about removing Uncle Bob's wedding or whatever the kids. That's amongst a bunch of them. They're talking about a bunch of kids' books that are LGBTQ or whatever. And having this big fight about that, which I definitely have a lot of thoughts on, but I'd say getting the phones out of class probably would be a higher priority than getting, the picture books out.
Well, you know what? How about I'll end with this. Perfect. Thank you so much. You just fucking threw me a softball. Again, personal fucking accountability. If a fucking kid wants to read a fucking book, let him read a fucking book. If a kid wants to use a phone, let him use a fucking phone. But if it's told, don't read this fucking book, during class because you got homework to do, take it home and read it. I'm fine with that. And if a kid says, if you say to a kid, don't use your phone from 7 a.m. to 3 fucking p.m., and they do, they should be fucking suspended or whatever. Like, let's have some fucking accountability. And it would be much better if the loudest voices that have the least amount to, like, the least stake in this, you know, I mean, the ones that will not have, the ones that want the books gone the most are the ones that them and theirs will have access to any and all of that information if and when they choose to have it. These other people that you're taking it from, this may be their only opportunity early in life, this public library or this school library, to have access to these materials. And again, your fucking kid, you can raise him as ass backwards as you want to, but the world is the fucking world. And there's some truth out there that people, it's their right to put down on the page, and it's your right to not fucking read it.
Yeah.
Bro, oh man.
Well, I think in this case, though, to be fair, I think they're arguing more about like having the books be more part of the curriculum, like, you know,
I don't agree with that.
Early readers and stuff like that, and I don't know.
No, I think that I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to raise like automatons in the sense of like, you know, reading, writing, arithmetic, and that's it. Like, but I think that's, you know, the early schooling is to lay that base. You know, you basically learn to learn. Then I would love to see like junior high, early high school maybe be like where you're exposed to a shit ton. You're just not indoctrinated in it. You're exposed to it. You're shown both sides. It's very, you know, as you know, both sides of the argument as you can be through that period of time. And then late in high school and then on into college, that's where it's the, you know, Socratic method, the critical inquiry into what you already believe, and then also the new stuff you are learning. And so, like, again, like, society, it feels more and more like everybody wants to be told what to do. So, like, yeah, if you're a group of parents that wants to lean totally into, let's have this monotonous, homogenous, like everybody has the same cookie cutter bullshit house, same cookie cutter bullshit car, they're raising their kids the exact same way. Yeah, it's super easy. If that's your mindset to say, okay, let's eliminate this book, let's eliminate this, like, let's not have this activity, let's not talk about this group of people, because
well, I mean, let's call it what it is, though. It's a very specific group of people. It's religious people who don't want their kids like being exposed to gay people. That's what it is, you know. Yeah. So then the question becomes, it's interesting that you say indoctrination, because that is kind of the argument that they're making, is that by, you know, having books that acknowledge the existence of gay people at too young of an age is indoctrination. Am I fucking up that word?
See, no, I mean, any of that, like, again, if there's a reality in this world, like if there are human beings that are homosexual, how can that be indoctrination to make people aware that that exists, no matter what age it is? Like, so, like, right. I'm like, the like age appropriate shit. There's so much gray to that again, I think that's like, you know, has to be personal, whatever. Where I think the thing that bothers me about, or I'm bothered by pretty much all of it on the side of trying to limit access to the books, because I just think, again, that's knowledge. Learning something isn't inherently good or bad. It's what you do with that knowledge. So, like, right. The idea of getting rid of any books, even the ones that I don't like, I think is wrong. Now, having said that, where I do think there is, like, now again, I'm not I'll be honest with you, I've only read a little bit of, like excerpts from some of these books, like over the last handful of years, where these things have become so, I mean, people are running specifically for school boards so they can get at books, and I mean, it's gone crazy. So having said that, where I will like at least keep a slightly open mind is like we've talked about oftentimes. There's nothing more askew than virtue signaling. And so if a book is representing, you know, a child maybe that's going through those feelings of, they're questioning their sexuality and they're trying to come to grips with where they fit in this world, and maybe there were, personal experiences, especially if the story is based on that, where they had some pushback, they had some, like, people that judged them or ostracized them for that something that is just them. And I got no like that's the kind of books we need to read, because it creates empathy amongst all peoples. But having said that, as we fucking know, especially the ones that are the most, it seems at least these days, most progressive, or the subject matter that's the most progressive, is presented with such a level of this is a valid lifestyle choice. This is a, like, if someone can't see that this is okay, they're less than. They're awful. They're no, I'm not saying they might not be petty about those feelings. They might, like, the fact that someone would think that someone's inherent worth is less because they're gay, they're wrong. Full fucking stop. But the idea that someone, because they've been raised a certain way religiously, socially, societally, and they're not sure how this different lifestyle is being represented, like, I think those are subjects that we could all have conversations and debates about. But, like, if you don't let people read the fucking book, how can you have fucking discussions about it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
like,
Well, and that's even a totally different, like, that would be a different subject matter than what they're arguing about now. Like, the Supreme Court, like, they only really got, at least in the clips I heard, they only got into it about one specific book, even though they were ruling on a whole bunch. But, like, it wasn't even those kinds of books. It was just basically versions of just a regular kid's storybook, you're learning how to read on, that happened to include gay characters. Like the one that Alito was reading from or whatever. It was just, the story was about a little girl who was upset because her favorite uncle was getting married. He was getting married to a guy, but that's not why she was upset. She was upset because she was losing her favorite uncle and didn't feel like she was going to get enough time with him or whatever. It was, not even relevant to the story that it happened to be gay characters.
so basically, it's like
But people get so butthurt about, like, indoctrination and, normalizing things that they don't feel is normal.
Yeah, right. No, I get. Yeah, that's absolutely wrong. But I think that there's. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Like, because I thought the crux of the main argument was, like, no matter what I believe, I'm the parent and I get to say what my kid, like, until they turn 18, I can tell them what they can or can't read. But then my pushback would be, well, you don't get to make decisions for all the other parents in the school, so
Right.
just tell your kid not to read that fucking book. But if it's at that kind of level you're talking about, then it's exactly like the DEI purge that is going on in the other parts of government. It's just the idea that, like, again, I mean, I hate to keep overusing the fucking example, but the fucking plane that dropped the fucking atomic bomb, the most pivotal fucking point in the whole 19th or 20th century, but the 1900s, the most giant single fucking event, and you don't have the plane in the records anymore because it was named the Enola Gay. I mean, that is the most, if it weren't true, it would be something that couldn't be believed. So, like, it's I have to think that the end game, kind of going back to the earlier part of the conversation, is to just destroy government, is to just say, okay, we have fucked up the school system so much now that it's all going to be privatized. If you can't afford it, fend for your fucking self. You'll be the...
It's to destroy the other side. I think each side just wants to destroy the other side because they're so dug in. It's funny you mentioned DEI because I was thinking when we were talking about Doge, people are so stupid because all the people, you know, shouldn't say all, but like the idiots on the right, if you complain about Doge, they're like, oh, what, you have a problem with the government being efficient and saving money? And DEI, anybody who has a problem with DEI, they say, oh, well, which part do you have a problem with? The diversity, the equity, or the inclusion? Or whatever. And it's like, everybody just wants to, like, bait a trap and just set people up to be more wrong than they are. Mm-hmm. When it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with government efficiency, but there is a lot wrong with just firing people from very important jobs because, you know, you're on an ego trip. And no, there's nothing wrong with diversity, equity, or inclusion until it becomes a problem, until it becomes a weapon of exclusion.
When the con man got into government, well, I mean, they're all con men, but like there's just not even reasonable arguments anymore. You know, it is like what made me think when you said that about how, you know, well, what's wrong with government efficiency? What happens then is it's not like at first, the first couple people push back in a very eloquent way, like you just did. But then what it quickly degrades to is just everybody then falls into the soundbite thing. And then it's, well, yeah, with a scalpel, not a chainsaw, with a scalpel, not a chainsaw. And then you hear that 1,000 fucking times. And the argument, the nuance of it is lost because it's the ridiculousness of, oh, you disagree with efficiency. And then, you know, a scalpel, not a chainsaw. You know, so,
yeah. It's just a daily competition of who can be the most right.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the people that support these MAGAs will understand that owning the libs is not working for you. And hopefully the libs understand that every fucking time you react to these things, you're the one that comes out looking like the dipshit.
Yeah.
So.
That's going to be a good one.
Woo!
All right, well, let's wrap it up for this week. Next week, we're going to have to talk about the draft, which, as we speak, is currently...
yes, I'm excited.
The NFL draft. We've been talking so much politics. I don't want to scare anybody and make them think that there's a draft. But, we'll catch up on that and everything else that happens in the next week.
Excellent.
All right. Congratulations on your impending graduation.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk soon.
Love you, bro.
Love you too. Peace.